ISIS is making millions and millions of dollars a week selling Libya oil. And you know what? We don't blockade, we don't bomb, we don't do anything about it.
Mr. Trump's highlighting of this millions and millions of dollars that the Islamic State is getting from Libyan oil, obviously it's a concern that a lot of people have, but it's actually not entirely true. In Libya, they have not managed to access the oil wells enough that they could either compromise them in any way through attack or just profit from selling that oil. This is an issue that happens in Syria and in Iraq, where they have actually managed to get their hands on oil wells and have profited as a result of that. But in Libya, it is not true. They have not yet managed to do that.
We've had a president who dislikes our friends and bows to our enemies, something that we've never seen before in the history of our country. He negotiated a disastrous deal with Iran, and then we watched them ignore its terms even before the ink was dry.
So the Iranians have not necessarily violated the actual deal that the United States struck with them in terms of the nuclear deal. However, there was a ballistic missile test that was in violation of the UN security deal. And so that caused a lot of concern. And a lot of people said that, they should be sort of put under probation. But with regard to sanctions being lifted, that was a big part of the pact between the United States and Iran specifically. And they have respected that because lifting sanctions was a major issue that the Iranians wanted to see through, and it's been a huge sort of result of the success of that deal. And so while there have been concerns about the UN security pact that was violated in some ways, the U.S. deal is still intact and has still been respected by both sides.
He supported the ouster of a friendly regime in Egypt that had a long-standing peace treaty with Israel and then helped bring the Muslim Brotherhood to power in its place.
Mr. Trump saying that the United States was somehow involved in that transition is not entirely true. In fact, the U.S. was really blindsided by the revolution when it first took off, and Hosni Mubarak was overthrown. Hosni Mubarak was a key ally of the United States, and they really didn't know how to handle it at the time. It was really something that was causing a lot of angst here in Washington. Eventually, they had to support the will of the people, and when you had millions and millions of people in the streets fighting to overthrow the leader, the United States eventually got on board and said, the will of the people had to go. Of course, then eventually they got into democratic elections that saw a member of the Muslim Brotherhood elected as president of Egypt. It was the first time Egypt ever held democratic elections and a Muslim Brotherhood leader was elected.